So let me start with a question, a real head scratcher. How on earth can a janitor with zero financial training end up a multimillionaire, while at the same time a Harvard-educated exec goes completely bankrupt? You've got Ronald Reed, the janitor, who quietly built an $8 million fortune. And then there's Richard Viscone, the Harvard MBA, who lost everything. The difference between them? It has nothing to do with how smart they were. And that's really the whole point, isn't it? The secret here is that financial success, it's not a hard science like physics. It's a soft skill. It's all about how you behave. I mean, you can be a total genius, but if you lose control of your emotions, you're toast. But, regular folks, they can become incredibly wealthy just by mastering a few simple behaviors. All right, let's dive into scene one. This is all about the most powerful force in finance, and we're going to see it through the eyes of the master himself, Warren Buffett. So we all know Warren Buffett is rich, like $84.5 billion rich. It's a number that's kind of hard to even wrap your head around. But how he got that money? Well, that's the real story here. Now get this. Of that massive fortune, a mind-blowing $81.5 billion, that's basically 99% of it, was earned after he turned 65. So this isn't just a story about being a brilliant investor, it's really a story about being a pretty darn good investor for a ridiculously long time. So check out this timeline. Buffett started way back when he was just 10 years old. By 30, yeah, he was a millionaire, which is great. But for decades after that, the growth was just steady, nothing crazy. But then, you see what happens in his later years? The power of compounding just goes nuts, and that curve shoots straight up. It goes vertical. Honestly, if he had started in his 30s and retired like a normal person in his 60s, you and I probably would have never even heard his name. So what's the big takeaway here? It's actually super simple. Buffett's skill is investing, sure, but his real secret sauce? It's time. Compounding doesn't need you to be a genius hitting home runs every year. All it needs is pretty good returns that you can sustain for the longest possible time. Okay, let's move on to scene two, because this next idea builds right on top of that. We're about to challenge a huge misconception people have about what it even means to have money. Think about it. We throw around the words rich and wealthy like they're the same thing, right? But they are completely different. Being rich is all about what you can see. It's your current income. It's the $100,000 car, the giant house. It's flashy, it's visible. But wealthy? That's the stuff you don't see. It's the assets you haven't spent. It's freedom. Yeah, to put it another way, wealth is just the income you decided not to spend. It's the fancy car you didn't buy, the diamonds that are still in the store. Wealth is the money that's still working for you in your bank account or in your portfolio, quietly creating more options and flexibility for your future. The best way to think about this is like an iceberg. That little tip sticking out of the water that everyone oohs and ahs at, that's being rich. That's the sports car and the mansion. But the real power, the massive, gigantic foundation that's holding the whole thing up, that's hidden under the water. That is wealth, a huge reserve of assets that gives you stability and real opportunity. So, just remember this simple phrase. Rich is loud, wealth is silent. Seriously, the world is absolutely full of people who look pretty modest but are secretly truly wealthy. And it's also full of people who look super rich but are living one bad month away from total disaster. And that idea leads us perfectly into scene three, the survival kit. Because as it turns out, making a bunch of money and keeping that money, well, those are two totally different skills. To get wealthy in the first place, you need a specific kind of mindset, right? You gotta have optimism, you have to be willing to take some risks, you need to be bold. But keeping that wealth, that takes the complete opposite. It takes humility, it takes a little bit of paranoia, this constant feeling that what you've built could be taken away from you in a heartbeat. You can almost think of it as having two different blueprints for your money. Blueprint A is for getting wealthy. It uses what you could call a dynamic risk engine. It's built for fast, volatile growth. But Blueprint B, that's for staying wealthy, and that's more like a defensive bunker. Its goal isn't speed, it's about enduring, long-term compounding. It's built to last through anything. This is so important. Survival is the single most critical skill in finance. Why? Because surviving is what lets you stay in the game long enough for that amazing compounding we talked about in scene one to really work its magic. I mean, without survival, the best investment returns in the world don't mean a thing. So yeah, you absolutely need that engine, that optimism and risk-taking, just to get started, to get off the ground. But you desperately need the bunker, the paranoia, and the savings to make sure you actually finish the game. And this brings us to our final scene, and this one might be the most counterintuitive of all. It's called Tails You Win, and it's all about the massive, outsized impact of a few very rare events. Okay, this is gonna sound nuts, but listen. You can be wrong, you can fail, you can be just plain average most of the time and still end up wildly successful. How? Because in finance and business, a tiny number of events account for almost all of the results. They're called tail events. Just take a look at the Russell 3000 index, which is a huge basket of public companies. A full 40% of them were total catastrophic failures. Most of the rest were, duds. So how did the index as a whole return over 70 times its value? It's because just 7% of those companies were extraordinary winners, and their gains were so huge, they more than made up for all the losers combined. I want you to picture a targeting system. It's scanning a field with hundreds of different investments. It misses, and it misses again, taking these small little losses along the way. But then it locks onto one glowing target in the corner, a single massive outlier. It hits that one target with everything it's got, and the shockwave from that one hit is so huge that it just completely wipes all the previous misses off the board. And that, right there, is the power of a single tail event. One gigantic success can be way more important than hundreds of small failures. So what does this actually mean for us, for you? It means that what you do during all those years of just calm, normal cruising, it doesn't matter nearly as much as how you behave during those few terrifying moments when the market is crashing and everyone else is freaking out. Your only job is to survive long enough for those tails to finally work in your favor. And you see, that brings us right back to where we started. The most powerful ideas in finance, the ones that really move the needle, they have almost nothing to do with spreadsheets and calculators. It's all about psychology. It's about time, perspective, survival, and your own temperament. If you can master those, you've pretty much unlocked the blueprint to the wealth vault.